Alright, thank you for that, host. Alright, let's see. Should have started a minute ago. On me. And for some reason, it just does not like to actually pop up. And there we go. That's really weird. And kind of rather annoying, to be frank. Oh, is anybody actually there? Well, I kind of don't want to... Okay, Hollow's there. Okay. Hey, Hollow. Okay, as long as somebody's there, I don't... I hate to progress the story and do not have anybody actually there. So, there we go. Turn that down just a couple of notches. I mean, I'm more than happy to do a stream with nobody watching, but when it comes to story-based stuff, it's like, I don't want to progress the story because people were following that. Of course, then again, I'm uploading it all to YouTube, so I guess it doesn't really matter that much. Anyway. Let's get back to where we were. And where we were was kicked out of the room. I wish we hadn't been thrown out like that. Wish we'd managed to find some clues as to what the speckled band might be. We didn't manage to investigate at all. And I imagine that we won't be able to for a while longer. We'll never get past that sailor guarding the door. He's clearly glaring at us as if to say, don't even think about it. Oh, wait a minute. What is it? Well, what happened to our great detective friend? Where'd he go? Oh yes, he's completely disappeared. When did he do that? He slipped away as quietly as the wind, before ensuring these were securely back on my wrists. There we go. Oh, is there anything? The door leads to the second class area. Locked. I can't open it. No, well, that stands to reason. No one wants to let the murderer escape. Ah, she gave me a very stern look when she said that. Look, on the top of the table there really is huge. There's a pin with it, too. Yes, I'm sure that's the ship's log. Have a little look through it. The writing is so neat and precise. Every detail about the voyage has been meticulously recorded. Wouldn't expect a rough and ready sailor to have such beautiful handwriting. Anyway, look here. Last night's log is mostly blank. Presumably that means there was nothing to report. Okay. Is there anything else over here? Already looked at that. Oh, let's talk to him. Really wish we'd had a chance to look around in Miss Pavlova's cabin. Yeah, probably the latter. What? Why you look like that? You want something? Maybe you want me to throw you out again, eh? No, definitely not that. Next time I have to throw you out, I show you where lobsters spend winter. Understand? Understand. Maybe I should steer clear of him until he's forgotten my face. I don't think he'll ever forget your face, Naruhodo-san. Gee, thanks. First class cabin number 1. Yep, that's our cabin. Not our your cabin. It's Kazuma-sama's. That's alright. Your accommodation is confined to the wardrobe inside the cabin. You know how to make a stowaway feel small, don't you? How's the wardrobe I've been calling home? Anyway, Inspector Hosonaga has managed to uncover any new clues. Yes, we should probably find him and ask. Right. Move. Looks like they're still investigating in here. Yes, on that subject, I wonder if Inspector Hosonaga is unscathed. You mean unscathed? Surely you haven't forgotten, have you, Naruhodo-san? Don't you remember what he said about allowing you out of this cabin to investigate? He was going to talk to the captain about it. He said he'd lay his life on the line for you. Oh, yes. He was exaggerating. He has to say for himself. I'd have some new information for us. Never know. Could be relevant. Okay. I did not expect him to get into a fight. You're back. Inspector! What happened to you? Your faces! Please, don't worry about it. They're just scratches. By a bear, maybe? I told the captain I'd give you new permission to investigate. He told me he'd pummeled me with his fist and then tossed me overboard. What? The pummeling was over in a flash. He must have decided against throwing me overboard. That was nothing, really. Look, he wasn't joking when he said he'd lay his life on the line if he had to. Well, thanks to your efforts, we now know a little about the neighboring cabin. Yes, so I understand. Oh? Bumped into a man claiming to be a great detective a little while ago. His name was something like Erlock Sholmes. He was German, though. That explains it. Shall we compare notes, then? We can tell you what we found out. Yes, let's do it. What? Nikolina Pavlova? She's in the cabin next door? Oh, do you know who she is? Please, what self-respecting ballet fan wouldn't know that graceful angel? Oops, I think I upset him there. Well, that tells us the neighboring cabin is unrelated to the case, at least. Oh, how? Because angels don't go around committing crimes, do they? Oops, now I've definitely upset him. Inspector, has your investigation here proved fruitful? If I'm honest, there's very little more I can do. Our duty is to make sure the scene isn't disturbed, ready to hand over to the Hong Kong police. Angels never lie, doesn't mean they have to tell the truth. So I'm just keeping watch here, trying not to take my eyes off the job. Oh, I see. There is one thing. I have a small piece of new information for you. Oh, what? Yes, do tell us, Inspector, please. What you got? What you got? What is this new information you have, Inspector? It's this. The Buria's medical officer has finished his examination of the body. Managed to obtain the report. Oh. Kazuma's post-mortem report? Kazuma-sama. So, what was the cause of death? Damage to the cervical vertebrae is what's written in the report. Back was broken? Or his neck was snapped? Cervical. a vertebra, so it has something to do with the spine. Could be his neck snap. His neck was broken? Yes, it would seem so. There were no obvious wounds or other signs of injury. But first, I think they were considering poison. Turns out they found no trace of poison in his system at all. Well, what weapon was used then? Nothing has been found as of yet. The fact that there are no signs of a wound suggests it may have been a blunt object. Something that wouldn't leave a mark. Oh, I see. All the body's nerves run through the spine to the brain. A strong enough impact to the neck could induce death. It is a possibility, and no obvious wound would be left. For Kazuma. I have a second copy of the report. It might be useful. Welcome to have it. Lee, are you sure? Yes, it's fine. I trust you. After all, if I didn't trust you, I would have agreed to you leaving this cabin in the first place, would I? Haha. Yay, we have the post-mortem report. No external injury or poison noted. Oh, Mr. Sholmes was here, was he? Yes. He seemed to be enjoying himself a little too much as he crept around on the floor investigating. But then he suddenly left. I suppose he must have become bored. Did he say anything at all? Actually, now that you mention it, yes. Just one thing, but he practically shouted it. It's shoe polish, was all he said. Shoe polish? What he meant? It was when he was over there, by the piece of broken glass. Do you see? That's what that is, shoe polish. Ah, perhaps he was talking about this brick-colored mark, do you think? Ah, yes, that must be it. How could Mr. Sholmes know that it's shoe polish? That leaves me cold, I'm afraid. I have no idea. Good question. What is it, Susato-san? Well, Kazuma-sama was wearing leather shoes with a very dark tan hue. Dark tan? Dark brownish red, then. Yes, a little like the color of red wine, but darker. I often repaired them for him. Oh, does this mean this mark was made by the polish on Kazuma's shoes as they scuffed on the floor? So, possible indication of post-mortem movement, I'm guessing. That's really all I can tell you at this stage. Return to my post. Fellow crewman's eyes are boring into the back of my head. Yes, that might be for the best. Thank you. Poor Inspector. You look exhausted. Oh, no. Well, I feel terrible that I failed to protect Asogi-san. It was my responsibility. Of course, my pain is nothing compared to yours. You were his friends. Truth is, I seem to have a heavy head ever since I woke this morning. Heavy head? That's interesting. My head's still throbbing too. Interesting. So, we're not the only ones who got dosed with some sort of a something. Take a second look at this. It really is such a beautiful color, this glass. It's like whatever it was broke and clean in two. The other half is nowhere to be seen. Then there's the brick-colored mark. Shoe polish, according to that great detective you seem to know all about. I suppose it must be from Kazuma-sama's shoes. Maybe. What I'd like to know is, Can the detective be so sure it's shoe polish and not something else? Also a possibility. Because he's a great detective, of course. It's hardly a reason, is it? Oh, I wonder if somebody drugged the food for, like, a lot of people so that they could do something undetected. It's clear that these letters are written with the ink that was somehow spilled on the floor. Spell the Russian word for wardrobe. It does seem to be an unambiguous pointer to you, Naruhodo-san, as you were sleeping in there. The unambiguous would have just spelt out my name, don't you think? Well, either way, one fact remains. It's hard to imagine that Kazuma-sama would have written his last words, or word, in Russian. It's a question of who did write it. This is where Kazuma spent his final moments, writing in his diary. 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. 1:35 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. And his writing here on this page. Possible to believe that he's gone. Kazuma-sama's left us a valuable clue in these words. I'm sure of it. We have to solve this mystery, Naruhodo-san. We will. This ventilator joins to Miss Pavlova's cabin. Yes, that's right. A few minutes before he died, Kazuma saw something emerging from it. A speckled band, as he described it. If only Miss Pavlova had been able to shed some light on it, but she seemed as baffled as we are. Yes. She's telling us everything, though. I'm not sure. I know most people aboard would say the same about me, but there was something about that woman that didn't sit right with me. The books provided for passengers occupying this cabin neatly arranged on the shelf. They were all over the place when we first looked around, if you remember. Yes, and you tidied them up, didn't you? You have to look after the ship's property. Unruly behavior in the cabins leads to damage. It really wasn't me who knocked them over. Well, anyway, I feel much better now that they're neatly lined up. I can't relax when things are untidy. These are the rules of passage for travel aboard the SS Burya. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. By bringing her pet on board, Miss Pavlova has broken the rules. She called it her friend, didn't she? Yes, although we don't know what form this friend takes as yet. Still saying it's probably a snake. Almost certain that whatever it is, it's inside the traveling case in her cabin. Friend. Distant it seems, I think. You! Where did you go? Oh, sorry. I just went to the next door cabin to Why? Who gave you permission for this? Well, Seaman Hosonaga did. That new Japanese, was it? Later, I will roll him into ball and throw him in cold room. Whew. Back to guarding the door. I hope Inspector Hosonaga doesn't find himself in too much trouble on our account. He's gone out of his way to help us, hasn't he? Get back to Japan. We'll have to take him for a steak at Le Carnival. That could be a very long time from now, Naruhodo-san. That's still the thought that counts, you know? Not seeing anything else. Let's look at the court record. Okay, male Far Eastern. Time of death sometime between 1 a.m. and a little past 2 a.m. Cause of death. Damage to the cervical vertebra resulting in instant death. Instant death. Victim's neck was almost certainly broken as a result of a strong blow to the area. Obvious external injuries or traces of poison. Or between 1 and a little past 2. There's a decent window, potentially, since his last entry into the diary. Is that... I really don't know what that half of a bell is from. The symbol of UMA University. Every student wears this pin with pride. It's funny, but most emblems seem to be round or rectangular. Like the spike design, though it doesn't really make any sense. It does cause problems. Lots of students end up cutting their fingers on their badges. It's the idea of one of the founders. A sharp pin for a sharp mind, or something. Already examined that. Yeah, somebody obviously arranged it, because otherwise this couldn't have happened. Not only for the fact that it's written in Russian, but also for the fact that he died instantly. I don't think there's anything else to look at in this room that we haven't already observed. And we've dealt with that before in another case. Now let's move back out in the hallway. See if anything new is happening here. It looks like the answer to that is yes. Ah! Look, Naruhodo-san! Seaman Stroganoff is gone! Strong enough? The burly Russian sailor who's always crossing his arms and glaring at us. All these Russian names are impossible to remember. La la la. You hear that? Like someone's singing. La la, I did it, the great detective. Oh, did it, the great. See, I did. I can't see. I need to see him. I can't do the voice without seeing him. He fell asleep on the keyboard so hard the hand sleep become fell. Criminy, that is sleeping hard. It's caroling. I know that lark-like voice. Never mind that now. It's a golden opportunity for us. Yes, you're right. We must seize it. Let's get inside Miss Pavlova's cabin while we can and investigate. Definitely before that stringy knot crewman comes back. It's Stroganov, not Stringy Knot. Oh, the case is open. Are you feeling decently awake? You need to go take a nap. I mean, don't necessarily stay up on my account. Miss Pavlova isn't back yet. Susato-san. Oh, she gone. Hey, what are you doing? Those are her private things. It's not a moment moment to waste, Naruhodo-san. We must investigate as quickly as we can. Oh, you're right. That's a mistake. Not just for Kazuma-sama. What do you mean? Not very much. The inspector from the first case who's undercover here, he really did put himself out on the line for us. He, when he went to the captain of the ship to say that he had given permission for us to investigate, he got beat up. Got a black eye and a busted lip. But he did, we did get the autopsy report. We know that Kazuma died of a broken neck. There's no obvious sign of injury. But someone broke his neck, and death was instantaneous. Well, there was no sign of poison, we'll put it that way. Yeah, there was also no sign of poison. So that just goes further to show, as if we didn't already know, that the message that was written was not done by him. Also, the reddish-brown mark near the body is shoe polish. Apparently from Kazuma's shoe. So he might have been drugged to that position? It's not entirely clear. And that's about all we've found out. Can't be long now until we arrive at port in Hong Kong. I don't want you to be in those handcuffs when we get there. Really? We must solve this case, Naruhodo-san. By ourselves if we have to. Yes, we will. It's possible. I mean, it's possible it was an accident. The only thing that complicates that is somebody obviously tried to implicate us? I don't know. I don't even know if anybody knew that we were in there. That's true. It has been a while since the Susato flip. Alright. Let's do all the examining we can while we can. Start with the case. Oh my, Miss Pavlova's case is open! By the by, I might... I might have to just do this on a once-a-week basis, because it is a little straining on the vocal cords. I'm not gonna lie. And at the same time, I can't think of another voice that would fit her. Completely empty inside, but according to the great detective's great deduction, she's hiding her special friend in there. Yes, a friend that she had to keep secret. You're not allowed to bring animals aboard the SS Buria. I wonder what kind of animal she had in there. If my throat really starts to get sore, I may drop it temporarily. Voice are like... Oh, that's funny. More to the point. Where is it now? A few books on the desk. Nothing else by the looks of it. Well, Miss Pavlova only ran away from the ballet last night. That's just as hard. She's hardly occupied in this cabin for any time at all. That's true. I wonder what kind of books she likes to read. Let me see. Yes, I see. It seems that Miss Pavlova enjoys reading. Books written in Russian. Thanks, I think I probably already knew that. It's rude to ask too much of people, Naruhodo-san. Kindly remember that. What about the trash can? I suppose every cabin has a waste paper basket. Have a little look and see what's been thrown away? Naruto-san! It's poor etiquette to go sifting through someone's rubbish, you know? Those eyes. Got me like I'm a piece of rubbish now. However, these are special circumstances, I think. Exactly, we have no choice. Hardly anything in here at all. Oh, well, that's a little disappointing. He's set. It seems this teapot is empty. The natural conclusion is that the Russians are a very thirsty people. Or, because Miss Pavlova only came into this cabin last night, she hasn't had a chance to make any tea yet? I mean, it could be either. We don't have an explanation as to how she got on the ship. It's definitely that they're excessively thirsty. I'd lay 1,000 to 1 on it. You're rather obstinate, aren't you, Naruhodo-san? I'm just wondering, but we would have been presumably in the middle of the ocean at the time. That's the thing I don't get. Because there hasn't been a port anytime recently. Maybe she was hiding somewhere and then got moved into this cabin? I don't know. I wonder what this little saucer is doing on the floor. It doesn't look like it's been dropped. Like it was put there deliberately. Ah, do you think there could be a leak in the roof just above here? What? A leak? Is this ship quite safe? I'm sure that even if there's a little leak in the roof, it doesn't mean the whole ship is gonna sink. No, you're right. Of course you're right. Really trying to persuade herself, isn't she? The books have toppled over together. Look, every single one. You think that's a god of the sea, perhaps? He's toppled too, though. Exactly the same as the bookcase next door. Kazuma's cabin. Perhaps Miss Pavlova was practicing a difficult ballet pose and fell against the bookcase? I don't know. Would she really be practicing ballet on the same night she ran away from a ballet company? Alright then. It must have been you. You lost your temper and knocked them all over in a fit of rage. Not everything bad that happens on this ship is because of me, you know. Well, anyway, I'll set them straight again in here, too. I don't like seeing things in disarray. Don't confuse her with facts, Hollow. Ah, yes, they're displayed in this cabin, too. Look, the SS Buria's rules of passage. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. I suppose Miss Pavlova realized she needed to keep the contents of her case a secret after she read this. Her special friend, I mean... I wonder where her friend has disappeared to now. Probably having fun exploring the ship, I imagine. I just hope Seaman Stroganoff doesn't find it and throw it overboard. Oh, yeah, so do I. Cabin door is the same simple sort of bolted latch as our cabin. The bolt's drawn across, there's no way anyone could enter the cabin from outside. Yes, it's not a particularly heavy-duty bolt, is it? But still, it wouldn't slide across of its own accord, would it? No, and the door is made of metal, so there's no chance of trickery using magnets to unbolt it from the outside. And it seals up perfectly, too, to stop any seawater coming in. You couldn't use the method you told me of passing a thread through a crack and around the closed door, either. I know a lot of tricks for opening doors. Starting to see why they suspected me. Yeah, I mean, it's not a particularly strong lock. So. Naruhodo-san, are you there? Sorry, I'm right here, yes. Why? Oh, good. I thought you might have climbed into the wardrobe when I wasn't looking. There's no place like home. Believe me, I don't have some strange compulsion to jump inside every wardrobe I see, you know. Well, anyway, I'm not sure anyone can fit inside this one. It's full of beautiful outfits. I suppose they're all stage costumes. I was rather hoping we might find Miss Pavlova's friend hiding in there, but no such luck. It very well could be. One of these next to the bed in Kazuma's cabin, too. Yes, it's a bell cord. I can't resist. Really hesitated there. She did a good tug, too. No, I didn't actually expect anyone to come. We don't want them to. We're trying to investigate in secret. So this ventilator connects to Kazuma's cabin next door. Yes, although what a fool a shipbuilder must be to open a ventilator into another room. Ah, maybe it's so that if there's a gas leak next door, the occupant of this cabin would notice and raise the alarm. Or the occupants of both cabins would die of gas poisoning. It's a possibility. Last night, Kazuma wrote that he saw a speckled pan coming out of this ventilator. See anything else? Note. I guess we're done here. Let's see if there's anything... Oh! Oh! It's Mr. Sholmes, look! Wow, you never know where he's gonna turn up next, do you? He seems to be stealing a look at something as he sings to himself. La la la, lira lira lay, I did it the great detective way. Still singing. He hasn't noticed us? Or he's simply in extremely high spirits. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when the yard bit off more than it could chew. And through it all, when there was doubt, it's lucky her luck was about. Excuse me. I solved it all, and I stood tall. I did it the great detective way. Mr. Sholmes! Ah! What is it? You want to fight, Honestly, interrupting a fellow when he's singing? I was just about to reach the climactic finish. Sorry, I thought you were never going to stop, so I figured now is as good a time as any. I very nearly dropped you to the floor with one of my famous right hooks. Alright, I get the picture. Could you put those fists away? Mr. Sholmes! You seem to be examining something before we interrupted you. Ah, yes, that. I was immersed in the study of the ship's log as penned by the stockily built crewmen who usually on guard here. Oh, yes, the ship's log. Did you find out anything useful from it? Well, after 2 a.m. this morning, the majority of the entries are blank. Which means there's nothing to report. A note happened, so... You truly are a student from the land of the rising sun. You've been utterly blinded by it. I'm sorry? Your logic, my boy, is inverted. Whatever you mean, Mr. Sholmes. Observe the other pages, and all shall become clear. It seemed the same crewman of off-stand sentry in this first-class passageway. And he has an almost religious practice of recording nothing to report every half hour. Oh, he writes that in every 30 minutes? Nothing to report? Precisely. Put simply, the seaman writes nothing to report when there is just that. And yet, the ship's log from last night is largely blank. He didn't even write nothing to report. Do you mean? Yes, there were circumstances afoot last night which led to the seaman being absent from his post. What kind of circumstances? What happened? That remains a mystery for now, but we can be sure something significant took place. So significant that it caused the seaman to forget his regular habit of scribing nothing to report in the log. These are important details. I would stake my life on it. You must log the ship's log in your mental file. No entries from 2 a.m. Time of death was somewhere between 1 and a little after 2. Now that deduction was worthy of a great detective. Ah, you're starting to understand what my way is, I see. What makes Sholmes, brilliance. Ah. Oh, ouch. What is it? You hurt? Oh, don't worry yourself. I seem to be afflicted with a throbbing head this morning for some reason. Nothing more. Okay, yes. I'm now convinced that every person on the ship was drugged. Well, except Susato is not showing any signs. Nor some of the other sailors. But there's too many people who have throbbing headaches this morning.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
Yes, indeed. That's true, she probably didn't. Or she wouldn't have. She probably came on last night. In fact, she did come in last night, so she probably came in after the meal. I wonder if it was drugged so that she could sneak on board. Well, my friends, until our next encounter. Still singing to himself. Hear it as he wanders down the passageway. That's... I don't know. Something wrong, Susato-san? You seem lost in thought. It's just... well, I feel the same. Sorry? Ever since I woke this morning, I've had something of a headache. Everybody's got a headache. A sort of continuous throbbing. Oh, you too. Well, isn't that interesting? There's anything else? I don't think so. Which, now that we've...
Very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
The alarm's going off. Ah! What's that? Shut down the engines immediately. Vessel sighted at a quarter mile 4. Full stop. Hard to starboard. All hands brace for impact. What the? I think we're about to crash into another ship. What? Susato-san, hold on to me. What? Susato-san, are you alright? Are you injured at all? I think I'm fine. Thank you, Naruhodo-san. Aha! I was right! I was 100% correct. That's how it's a locked room mystery. So our analysis was correct. Looks like we avoided a collision. I think. Yes, the ship has come to a stop. Oh my goodness, what about you, Naruhodo-san? Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. Hello, is anyone in there? Hello, is anyone in there? Shout if you need assistance. Oh, that sounds like... Oh, no, that's Hosonaga. Inspector Hosonaga! Is that you in there, Naruhodo-san? Unbolt the door, quickly! What? The bolt? Look at that! The door's bolted. Did you do that, Susato-san? No, I didn't touch it! Well, that's strange. How did... Look at all the books. Just like they were before again. Naruhodo-san, aren't you going to open the door and let the inspector in? Tidy this place up first. Violent emergency stop has solved one mystery at least, in a very vivid way. But I knew that what awaited us on the other side of the cabin door would not be pleasant. I hurried around tidying up the cabin with a new sense of foreboding in my heart. Oh, that was a short section. Somehow, the door to the cabin we were in ended up bolted after we made an emergency stop. Sato-san took a deep breath and gently slid back the bolt. You! What are you doing in Miss Pavlova's quarters? Ah, you both look unhurt. Good. Yes, we're fine. Thank you. What on earth happened? I heard something about how we were going to collide with another ship. Yes, it appears to have been a false report, though. Oh, how did that happen? There's a dense fog outside, so it's extremely difficult to see. Someone must have thought he saw a ship ahead. Oh, you're right! This person obviously triggered the alarm, and that's why we made an emergency stop. Everything is chaos. Passengers are screaming. Crew are running everywhere. This first-class area is the only quiet part of the ship at the moment. Oh, I see. Someone triggered the alarm? Does that mean someone pressed that button outside? Ah! You wicked intruder! Dressed in all black! You're the devil! Sorry, me? I've done a lot of things before, but devil is a first. You opened my traveling case! How could you? What? No, we didn't touch it. That's right, Miss Pavlova. It was already open when we came into your cabin. Inspector! Yes? Arrest this man! I know he did it! He is a criminal! Is it not enough that he has killed a man? Ah, and he is stowaway as well. If Vixen promises not to steal chicken, do you believe? Take him away! He is trespasser as well as everything else! Stowing away, trespassing, killing! She is right, you are devil! Doesn't look good, does it? There is cell below deck. Throw him in. Tomorrow we dock in Hong Kong. Then we give you straight to police. Wait, a cell? Please, Inspector Hosonaga, is there nothing you can do? This is a Russian vessel. I really have no jurisdiction here. For my last effort to appeal to the captain's good nature, I think I'm out of options. This is terrible! Real crisis. I've got to find a solution. Immediately. Miss Pavlova, can I... Get out! Listen, I'm sorry we snuck in here without your permission, but... Get out now! We just needed to investigate in here to help... I can't speak Russian. It's no use. She's not gonna listen. Need to find someone who will. Please, just give me a little more time. I do nothing for you, except show you a way to ship's prison cell. Thanks, but no thanks. But I'm innocent. I didn't kill anyone. And trespassing and stowing away? Well, you know, sometimes life can lead you down some unusual avenues, and well... Enough! You're guilty! Ship's cell is the only place fit for you. Come on, there has to be someone. Savior to rescue me from this crisis. I feel so bad leaning on Hosonaga like this. It's like the man already got himself beat up for us. I don't want to put him in more. Make it worse for him. You've gotten yourself into a difficult situation here. Entering this cabin uninvited, I mean. Sorry. I was just so desperate to find a clue. I'm afraid there's really nothing more I can do to help you. Push my luck any further, a punch to the face will be the least of my worries. I'm really sorry. I have to take responsibility for giving you freedom to investigate Miss Pavlova's cabin. Now this has happened. I'll have to report to the captain at once. Really need some help here. Savior to rescue me from this crisis. When did you get here? What the? What are you doing up there? Mr. Sholmes? Naturally, I was analyzing the weight of 20,000 rubles feels on one's head. Have I not told you that as a detective it is my business to know what other people do not? This isn't mere tomfoolery, my boy. Oh, no, no, no. Well, why are you hanging from that hook before then? Isn't it obvious? To properly assess the weight of 20,000 rubles, naturally. I wish to determine if it would bend that conceited-looking hook on the wall, so full of brag and bounce. I never know whether to take this man seriously or not. Ah, you again, the great detective. Ah, Inspector, I confess I've been looking for you. I have something to report to you most urgently. Well, you might try looking for me somewhere other than a hook on the wall next time. What is to report? Speak! An urgent report from a great detective can mean but one thing. Yes. The case of the curious murder that took place last night here on this vessel, the steamship Beria, has been solved. By me, naturally. What? Really? Yes, I have eliminated all other possibilities. No other explanations exist. So, allow me to eliminate all your minds. For I am about to reveal my great detective's greatly admired great deduction to the case. Okay, do tell. Ah, you have solved it. Even Hedgehog understands this case. We all knew who was responsible for killing Student Boy this morning when we found criminal in wardrobe. It is the stowaway, and he has handcuffs to prove it. I didn't do it. Trouble is, there doesn't appear to be anyone else who could have killed the victim. As everyone knows, the cabin door was bolted shut from the inside. That means the culprit must be someone who was inside the cabin. Yes, it's what's called a locked room mystery in detective stories. Ah, locked room. That is point. The room was locked. Well, I can't deny that. There's no way the bolt could have been drawn across from outside the cabin. You were all quite mistaken. The cabin next door is not a so-called locked room at all. What? Oh yes, there is another entrance. An entrance used last night by the culprit in order to gain access to the cabin despite the bolted door. So you about to say that they crawled through the vented? What other entrance? We never discovered one. Why, it gapes open-mouthed at you even as we speak. The ventilator, man! The ventilator? You think this is funny? I cannot even put my arm through that hole. That's because your arms are as thick as tree trunks. We're suggesting that the culprit entered and left the victim's cabin through that tiny opening. It's not possible. Ah, but it is. And last night, the victim even witnessed the intruder in the act of passing through the ventilator. Mr. Sholmes, do you mean... Are you referring to the words Kazuma-sama wrote in his diary? Probably. 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. 1:35 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. Precisely, my dear madame. What does it mean? What is the speckled band? The answer to that particular conundrum is in this very cabin. Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? There is a distinct element of danger, but fear not, I am ready. What I'm about to expose for you all to see will shock you to your cores. Behold! Yeah! What the... Yep, it's a snake. Not a badger. Allow me to introduce you all to the band. The speckled band. A snake? Indubitably. Yeah, seriously. Mr. Sholmes, just one thing. Pray, what troubles you? Well, that snake isn't really speckled, is it? Looks more stripy, wouldn't you say? Hmm? Yes, you're right. I think in this case, you'd have to call the striped band, wouldn't you? It's possible. Oh, you're right. It does explain the bands around his face. You both see and observe with distinction. However, do you not think that this is precisely the trap into which the culprit wishes you to fall? Oh my goodness, really? It's a trap? How exactly? Perhaps it is time I explain the intricacies of my train of thought. You ready, Miss Pavlova? I'm sorry for the young man who died, but that is all. His death has nothing to do with me. This whole thing has nothing to do with me. There are two conclusions I have drawn from the facts. Number one, last night your friend infiltrated the victim's cabin. Ah! And number two, that same friend was responsible for the victim losing his life. No. Except it couldn't have been... couldn't have killed him because somebody went into the cabin and wrote that message in the ink. That alone proves that it's not the snake. Or at least not the snake by itself. It's turned white as a bowl of rice again. Holmes must be right. He's hit the nail on the head. This young woman's friend, old Mr. Asogi? Looks like he can't even speak with that snake coiled around his head. I would advise as little movement as possible, seaman. Wouldn't want the fangs of that long friend in your neck. So everyone, let us begin. Sherlock Holmes is proud to present his Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. Very true. Alright, let's see what we're working with here. Intruder's identity. Miss Pavlova, moments ago you claimed the following. His death has nothing to do with me. This whole thing has nothing to do with me. Yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, your aching heart smarts with pain. More like a wrist. It is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So, we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin on that portentous night? Why, naturally, it was the friend with which you boarded this vessel, was it not? Ah, as I suspected, another telltale glance. Without doubt, your friend is the writhing serpent we see before us. And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band, whereas regrettably, this specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we give then, pray? What was the sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? No, don't look at me! This has nothing to do with any of this! Oh, but it does. You have the answer to this quandary even now, hidden behind your back. Yes, that which you are trying, but failing, to conceal can only be the snake's slough skin. Evidently, after the subtle and horrible crime, this most deadly friend of yours, Janet's original skin. Oh? I don't know what you're talking about. Last night, through the ventilator visible in this cabin, then your speckled friend slithered next door. Using the bell cord on the other side as a bridge, the serpent silently descended into the victim's quarters. Dim light, it appeared to the young gentleman who was about to lose his life as a speckled band. In summary, the nature of this friend of yours, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a rare breed of snake whose markings change each time it sloughs its skin. A snake so dreadful we can only imagine it would be found in the deepest depths of India. Or you're off the mark. I'm pretty sure there are no snakes that change its markings when it sheds its skin. Moving on, we come to the heart of the matter. Grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life, and why? According to the data of which I have been appraised, it would appear there were no visible signs of injury. Ah! In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. Oh, no, it can't. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Oh no, could there be? Yes, an examination of the deceased's body will prove the cause of death conclusively. The almost, but not quite, imperceptible puncture wounds left by the venomous fangs will seal the truth. Yes, the vestiges of the snake bite delivered by your terrifying friend. This makes no sense. There's no point feigning ignorance, Miss Pavlova. After the incident, you endeavored to hide everything, didn't you? But now your involuntary glances betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right, you hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that traveling case. When we first met in this cabin, it came to my attention that your case moved periodically. A serpent assassin was restless inside, no doubt. You don't! It's telling that the victim made a note of the low whistling sound he heard minutes before his end. It was your signal, was it not? The sound you used to train your serpent friend. To train? Indeed. You'd put the serpent through his ventilator and wait. After a period, you'd summon it back with a whistle. Couldn't know if the animal had done its duty, so you would listen for signs of life next door. The victim appeared to have not been dispatched. You'd kiss the snake once more. You deny the snake has undergone such training? This is not true! Being slithered through the ventilator and down the bell cord, the creature needed only to sink its fangs in once. And its venom would course through the victim's veins, ending his existence forever. That is the true nature of the speckled band that took the poor young man's life. Be no doubt, my logic is infallible. Yeah, there's some problems with that. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of the speckled band. Okay, on the upside, the suspicion is not being cast at us any longer. On the other hand, you're off the mark. Miss Pavlova has trained your pet snake as a killing machine. There on the floor, you will observe a saucer of milk. Promise of food is the key to training any creature. Incredible! Solve the mystery! Amazing! Your great deduction really lives up to its name. See why Herlock Sholmes has become such a household name. My dear man, nothing remarkable. Russians say I could have done it with one left hand. And it's Susato, I think, who's going, that doesn't sound right. Could I venture an opinion, Mr. Sholmes? But of course, what's on your mind? It's just about your deductions before. Some things don't quite make sense to me. I welcome questions as to my method. I will answer both loudly and proudly. Oh, well, good. First of all, snakes are egg-laying creatures, part of the reptile family. You are well informed, madame. And reptiles, don't drink milk. Ah. It's really only mammals that like to drink milk, you see. Oh, that's a good point. So, I'm not sure it would be possible to train a snake using milk as a reward. No matter. No doubt Miss Pavlova used some other treat to encourage her pet to do her bidding. Milk was merely an example. The logic holds. Well, there is something else. Snakes have no ears. Ah. Yes, so I'm not sure it would really be possible to signal a snake by whistling. But madame, what of the tales of Arabia? Have you not heard of the snakes that dance to the sounds of a flute? I think perhaps the performers play their music in time with the snake's natural movements. Oh, I see. No hands, no feet, no ears. Creatures are so inept as to be practically useless. Don't take it out on the snakes, Mr. Sholmes. There is one other thing. You have more? Snakes use the scales on their bellies to propel themselves. So, I'm not really sure that a snake could manage to climb up a flat bell cord like the ones in these cabins. Then it should try harder. Please, don't be angry with me, Mr. Sholmes. The point is, even if the snake had gone through the ventilator to the next door cabin, it wouldn't have come back without help. What I'm trying to say is that there are a number of reasons why it's difficult to imagine the snake could have had a part in this. I think we need to step in and help again, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh no, you don't mean... Yes, we need to modify Mr. Sholmes' latest deductions and turn them into the great ones they ought to be. A feeling that was coming. Alright, let's give it a try. Just what I was waiting for, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, right. So, cast your eyes down onto your wrists again. What? How does he keep doing that? You've done it again. Your handcuffs are gone. Where did they go? Fear not, I shall see them restored after our work is done. I really wish you'd leave them off. That is kind of what I'm channeling, yes. I'm channeling Chip Brannigan, who is channeling William Shatner. Now, everyone, let us begin. Sherlock Sholmes is proud to present his Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. Course correction. Miss Pavlova, moments ago you claimed the following. Death has nothing to do with me. This whole thing has nothing to do with me. Yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall those horrible events, your aching heart smarts with pain. Except that's not what she's looking at. She doesn't have a pained expression on her face. Yes, that's true. It looks as though Kazuma-sama's death is weighing heavily on her mind. Yet you're not sure Mr. Sholmes has read her quite correctly, is that it? Good way to interpret her expression. Let's take a moment and really look closely at Miss Pavlova. Oh, there's a scratch mark. Oh, Naruhodo-san, look! That looks like a very painful wound. She probably has a cat. It's like a scratch made by some kind of small animal. Recently, too. Well, whatever scratched her doesn't appear to be around here.
Yes!
What I'm thinking. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, that claw scratch smarts with pain. Indeed, and simple observation reveals that the wound is fresh. Miss Pavlova, did you in fact receive that scratch sometime last night? Ah! When I think about the young man who died next door, I feel so sad. And when I am sad, the pain from this wound is worse. And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So, we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin on that portentous night? Why, naturally, it was the friend with which you boarded this vessel, is it not? Ah, as I suspected, another telltale glance. Without doubt, your friend, the writhing serpent we see before us. Seems likely that the scratch mark on the back of Miss Pavlova's hand is made by this friend of hers, doesn't it? Except, snakes don't have claws, do they? No, they don't. They don't even have hands or feet on which the claws might grow. Well then, if snake isn't her pet, what is? True identity of this friend of hers. You should follow her gaze, Naruhodo-san. That's where we'll find the answer. It's a cat! Ah, look at this photograph in this frame. Ah, and there's a bell! And now we know where the bell is. So, it's possible that the cat somehow got in the ventilator and made its way across? She is exceptionally beautiful, isn't she? Yes, that's true, but personally, it's a little black creature she's holding that's caught my eye. Better take a closer look at this. Look at the little cat Miss Pavlova is cuddling here. Oh, what a cute little kitten! Could vie with you, couldn't it, Naruhodo-san? For the blackest outfit! A black kitten. Well, look at this picture, at least. Miss Pavlova seems very attached to it.
Yes!
That raises the question of what it was she had behind her back, then. Without doubt, your friend is the little kitten we see before us. Yes, the scratch on the back of your hand makes that abundantly clear. Oh no! Whereabouts of this black kitten isn't clear, but what is clear is that you brought the animal with you when you ran away, didn't you? Ah! Darka is my best friend. I couldn't leave her behind. Darka would appear to be a Russian blue. And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band. Whereas, regrettably, this specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we give, then, pray? What was this sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? No, don't look at me! This has nothing to do with any of this! Oh, but it does. You have the answer to this quandary even now, hidden behind your back. Yes, that which you are trying, but failing to conceal, can only be the snake's slough skin. Did you see that? She just took something out of her pocket and hid it behind her back. She just left it in her pocket. No one would have ever known. Oh yes, ploys like that are Mr. Sholm's specialty. He's ever so cleverly forced her to reveal something. That deduction was a specialty. Making me believe that was a ploy too. Anyway, I find it hard to believe that that's the skin of a snake. In which case, what is Miss Pavlova hiding behind her back? Well, let's find out. What is that? Well, it is speckled. It's a band, but what is it? It seems to be soft and fluffy. Long piece of cloth of some sort. That looks like a handle at one end. I think it may be a cat's toy. This is sort of common in the West, apparently. It's not a toy for cats. Cats like to chase the band around and paw at it. Kittens in particular love that sort of play. You only need to wave it in front of them, and they pounce to catch it. Sounds positively adorable. It is.
Yes!
Yes, the thing you're trying, but failing to conceal, is, cat's toy. Precisely, and the true nature of the now infamous speckled band. Ah! And it was this toy that you dangled through the ventilator. You waved it around, I presume. Naturally, the victim could not fail to notice it. But why? For what reason? My dear boy, there can only be one answer to that. After her feline friend disappeared through the ventilator into the neighboring cabin, Miss Pavlova attempted to use the speckled cat's toy to entice the creature to return. Ah. In summary, the nature of this friend of Miss Pavlova's, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a blithesome Russian blue breed of cat by the name of Darka. Yeah! Truly troublesome feline young Darka is proving to be. She must be caged once found. You will forgive us for borrowing the photograph of your pet, Miss Pavlova. It was after I gave her food last night. That's when it happened. She scratched the back of my hand and then ran up the bell cord. Before I could do anything, she had disappeared through the ventilator. Darka, she is so naughty. Okay. So now we know that. Well, obviously this part then is completely off. Moving on, we come to the heart of the matter. The grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life, and why? According to the data of which I have been apprised, it would appear there are no visible signs of injury. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. Mr. Sholmes says it's true. There were no signs of a wound anywhere on Kazuma-sama's body. That's right. Sholmes seems to be unaware of one very important detail. Kazuma wasn't poisoned. Yes, it would seem so. Let's give him the information he's missing now.
Yes!
In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by the post-mortem report. Ah, yes, I knew it was one or the other. His neck was... Indeed, the breaking of the cervical vertebrae is fatal. Only that Goliath would be strong enough to survive that. Seeming strong enough isn't some immortal freak, you know. The jury is out. Anyway, we have on good authority that the victim's neck was broken. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Oh no, could there be? I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's going to be a consistent, and I hope he is so much fun. Kazuma died because his neck was broken. In other words, he was probably struck by something or someone. Yes, that's a distinct possibility. As of yet, no weapon has been found, though. Presumably, Darka didn't silently creep up behind Kazuma and deal him a fatal blow. I suppose. It's possible that he had a fall and hit the ground awkwardly. It would have been a terrible act of misfortune that broke his neck completely by accident. Oh yes, all could explain it. It's rather hard to believe of Kazuma-sama, though. He wasn't a clumsy man. We need to fix this deduction somehow. Think from the scene that could explain what happened. That's a distinct possibility. Yes, an examination of the mark on the floor will prove the cause of death conclusively. This particular mark so prominently visible next to the victim's body is the deposit of shoe polish. Shoe polish? Indeed, positively identified by a little analysis device I constructed, which I now carry as a matter of course. Beeswax, tallow, and dye were my results, the undeniable ingredients of shoe polish. And the color of the polish is a perfect match to the color of Mr. Asogi's lace leather shoes. Looking at this mark, not hard to imagine what happened. For some reason, Mr. Asogi must have caught his foot at that point on the floor and tripped. Please, no! and by a dreadful turn of misfortune caught his neck at some immovable object as he fell to the floor. Suffering a fatal blow to the spine, the victim's vertebrae shattered, and in that instant, lost his life. No! I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Is that really true, Miss Pavlova? What about the evidence left at the scene where Mr. Asogi lost his life? Yes, the facts are as clear as day to me. You did all you could to conceal the incriminating evidence. But now your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right. You hid the evidence that leads you to the victim's death in that traveling case. It would seem that way.
I don't believe it. Asuma-sama merely tripped over and now he's no more? It can't be true. I refuse to accept it.
I know it's hard to believe, but the mark on the floor does seem to suggest that's what happened.
But
if this part of Mr. Sholm's deduction is right, Pavlova is trying to hide some evidence that would prove it. You're in this cabin, somewhere in the direction she just cast her eyes.
Where, I wonder?
Let's have a good look around. It must be here somewhere. Traveling case, a tiara. What has she been trying to hide? She's been trying to hide the tiara. I think. Ah, someone appears to have dropped 20,000 rubles here.
It hasn't been dropped, Naruhodo-san. It's been placed.
I'm starting to sound like Mr. Sholmes.
I'm trying to sound like the great detective. This is a waste paper basket. Perhaps all the first-class cabins have them.
Miss Pavlova only started occupying this cabin late last night. Suddenly, there's not much rubbish in there yet. Oh-ho-ho! Oh, what's that?
It's a broken piece of glass, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I feel like I've seen it somewhere before.
If it looks familiar, perhaps it's more than your mind simply playing tricks on you.
Yes!
That's right. You hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that wastepaper basket.
Ah!
Here we have a fragment of some intricate glass object, it would seem. One that has a familiar air, in fact. Precisely. And another piece of broken glass on the floor in Mr. Asogi's cabin. As you can see, pieces fit together perfectly.
Oh no!
So, Miss Pavlova, shall we consider what this tells us? How would it be that the part of this glass object, which was evidently broken at the scene of the victim's death, should be found in the wastepaper basket in your cabin?
Yeah!
You're well acquainted with this glass bell, are you not?
I don't...
I don't know, and that hushed Russian accent of yours won't save you this time, dear girl. Why? Because we have conclusive evidence linking you to the bell in question.
What?
Take it away, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. The evidence linking Miss Pavlova and the little glass bell, that would be...
Yes!
If you look at this photograph, you can clearly see, hanging from darkest collar, very glass bell in question.
Hey!
The truth has caught up with you, Miss Pavlova. The young man who lost his life last night did so after a truly inauspicious fall. Cause of that fateful stumble? Your absent feline friend, Darka. So it was an accident. He tripped. I don't think we've had just an accident before.
I couldn't tell anyone. I'm sorry.
Why don't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? This is exactly what happened last night.
It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands.
Do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments.
She was so fast, she disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her.
Of course, the thing about it is, this explanation still leaves a couple of things in question, such as the drugged food. And that is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it.
Yes. And I had read the rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me.
Well, she tampered with the crime scene because she had to have been in the cabin to pick up that other half of the glass bell. So we know she was in there, and presumably she wrote the message. Though why remains a question. Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really.
So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin.
Oh, that could be it.
It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping.
But at that point, you thought it safe to try to lure the kitten back again, dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator and into the adjoining cabin.
Darka always loves this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return.
The faint whistling sound Cosimo wrote about in his diary was Miss Pavlova trying to retrieve her pet. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened.
Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait until she calmed down. But then... I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful bang. Then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent.
Cosimo was... Appearance of the brown mark on the floor. It's likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. SS buried as a large vessel. She can pitch and roll violently without warning. Rosogi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet. A combination of that unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. What became of the kitten afterward?
In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator.
Yet Darka is nowhere to be seen.
I must have forgotten to lock my case. And now she's disappeared again.
Gracious, that cat is as insufferably restless as I am. Well, he knows something about himself, at least.
When I woke this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died. But I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back.
Oh, hold on a minute. About the snake. You're right. Where is it? It's snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova, then whose is it, and where did it come from? On Earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board the ship? Look at that smile. Oh, I didn't say. Snake is my friend. His name is Pirosco. What? What? That snake belongs to you. He escaped from cage when emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. Not expect to find him in here. Yes, how did that snake get into this cabin? But animals are not permitted on board. Ha! We're at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long without close friend? Without someone who understands? Can you find someone a little more human who understands you better? But my dear burly fellow, gargantuan venomous snake, surely you could appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in. No venom. Roscoe does not have venom. He is harmless, very long, but very gentle. He's adorable, like Granny. It's venomless? Yes, now he is hungry, so he is in bad mood. But once I feed him, you will see big smile. And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose? Ha! Like they say, milk chickens? Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Berlusco eats mouses. Big, fat, round mouses. Ah. Oh, so is that what the mousetrap in the passageway out there is for? Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food? It says top of the food chain, like the look in their eyes right now. It refuses to drink milk, it can't hear a whistle, it can't climb up a bell cord, and it's not even venomous? How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role? It's not my fault. I do not make up stories. Perosco has nothing to do with this incident. That's what happened. Truth behind my best friend's tragic death. Except, it's not the full story. It might not even be the true story. He may have just tripped and fell and knocked himself out. Because somebody came into the room. Possibly so.
Miss Pavlova, I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you. But
you talking about Miss Mikitoba? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It's just a series of unfortunate events. An accident.
I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo?
Perfectly honest, yes. Discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story. But I put my finger on it. I confess, I wasn't intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. Oh. I'm only present here for a very specific reason. Truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. And they're back. Not again. Did he do that? Especially as they're on your wrist as a result of my intervention. Hoping I can resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were Mr. Sholmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours. Was he not? Yes. Kazuma was my closest friend. But of my freedom, even. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. This is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure. Chase that down. The truth will become clear. Truth about how you really died. How that scene in your cabin really came to be. Alright, let's see what I can do. Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo.
So then, shall we begin? Yes. What should we ponder first? Is the victim who lost his life in the cabin that was bolted shut from the inside? Is this truly an unfortunate accident? Is it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance. We already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten that had climbed into his cabin via the ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident. Wait, let's just take a step back. It doesn't make sense if that's what really happened, does it? I'm going to have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. Vince's right in Kazuma's cabin. It's undeniable. Couldn't possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no mere accident. I'm assuming the crime scene photograph because of the writing. Truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. No way that Mr. Isogi could have left this message on the floor. Script. It's Russian, isn't it? Indeed it is. The word written there means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language. Japanese in this case.
But maybe he was studying Russian. It is a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast.
Doesn't seem likely. Actually, not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. Sorry? What do you mean? Exactly what I said before. There is no way that Mr. Isogi could have left this message on the floor. The reason why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulting in instant death. Instant death. Ah! Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything. Because he was already dead.
That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Isogi's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there if what Miss Pavlova told us was true.
What? So, Susanoo-san has noticed it too, then. This message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away. A piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. In other words... guessing the... bell. This piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor. It's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. We already know all about that. broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. We have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic? Fortunately, there's a very big flaw. A fatal flaw. What? That's really what happened. Then how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Ah. By the by, whenever somebody is startled, the controller vibrates. I just like that little detail.
Yes, remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in the wastepaper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova?
Oh no. Both of these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. When Mr. Asogi died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. That same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth, in order to cover up his or her own guilt.
Yeah! Yes, there was someone else present in Mr. Asogi's...
You are wasting time. Someone else was there. Duh, of course, we know this. What are you talking about? Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There was no way in or out. Oh, yes. But we have an explanation for that, too. And the only other person in cabin when young student died was you. It's true, I was in the cabin when it happened. It was shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details. I don't know Russian. There's no way I could have left that message. Hi, Peanut. Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details. Possibly so. I think Twitch sometimes has a proclivity to not notify properly. Oh, and yeah. Life happens. So, totally understandable. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. I was saying... The person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor, in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time.
And then, the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Asogi really died.
Why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell away? Being half behind was always going to raise questions. Yes, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. The single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light onto the floor there. Little wonder, then, that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item.
You all suspect me, don't you?
Seaman Stroganov? Nina is woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skill and she went away to join ballet company. But before, she was dancer on this ship, a member of ship's band. You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal. Ah, so that's it. Say that when the young student died, Nina was there in this cabin. But that is not possible. I give my tooth. Well, this is almost certainly interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure? You are a great detective, you should know. Look truth in eyes. Cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. Nobody could go into cabin. Not Nina, not anyone. Or you want to tell me that killer can walk through locked doors? Yet! It's impossible. He's right.
But wait! I've read about this in detective stories. People often tie thread around door latches so they can open and close them from the outside.
Thread? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors. Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel, and a gap in sight. No threads or needles or magnets could have been used.
No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so...
Sano-san, how could you shift it onto me like that? The Seaman Stroganoff has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily. What? I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And it is in this very cabin you can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before. I don't believe it. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo, if you know what I mean, don't you? Way to shut the bolt of the cabin door from the outside? Does spring to mind, yes.
Do you really know what Mr. Shulms means, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, and so should you. We've seen it happen. Indeed we have. So would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo? Point out the telling signs, the method that was used to slide the cabin door bolt across from the outside.
Yes!
The bookcase there. See how all the books and things on it have toppled over.
That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before.
Yes, that's right. Powerful vessel, after all. Engines are thrown into reverse. A violent jolt goes across the entire ship. These small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over.
I believe. Yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia acting on the objects.
Think Susato-san doesn't know? Or that isn't in her book, at least? No, whatever it's called, it's the same force that pushed over the books on the bookcase. Also made something else in this cabin move. Bolt on the cabin door.
Ah!
Very obvious just after the emergency stop the ship made earlier. He'd come into the cabin not long before, hadn't bolted the door. Then... Hello, is anyone there? Shout if you need assistance. That sounds like...
Inspector Hosonaga. Oh, yes. That's it. When the ship stopped, suddenly the bolt flew across and locked the door.
Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the force of inepta. You want to call it that. Are you trying to say that last night Mr. Isogi was killed? SSS Burium made another emergency stop? I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin. I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over. All the ornaments. Almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over.
Oh yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I?
Then when we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over. It's like in Mr. Isogi's cabin.
Oh my!
So, I'm going to take a guess and say that the reason for the drugged food was so that everyone would be asleep and no one would notice the emergency stop and raise any questions as to why they suddenly stopped to let her on board. That's my guess. There is a problem with that, though, because if that's what happened, the emergency stop would have happened before the murder, so... or before the death. So... okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But they could have done it to sneak people on board. Maybe the emergency stop was something else. Anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova? Are you out of your mind? You say Beria made emergency stop? Seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? You're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room. Oh, but it is simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside? Used to trigger the emergency alarm?
Oh yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you to only press the button in times of emergency.
On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewman to raise the alarm. Sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity. You pressed the button, didn't you, Sholmes? You pressed the button that caused the emergency stop before, didn't you? Wait! It was you! When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interest of safety. Emergency alarm bell rings, and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. God's sake, Sholmes.
Mr. Sholmes, really it wasn't you who...
As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. Be pressed, whatever the occasion. Sounds almost proud of himself. How dare you mess with ship? I'll report you to Captain. You are in much trouble now. Now, I'm sure that it can all wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we now have learned a valuable lesson. The vessel makes an emergency stop. Bolts on the cabin's door slide closed. So, what we must now consider...
Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Asogi, did the ship make an emergency stop, or did it not?
You're idiots. Beria's huge ship with many passengers. Make emergency stop even in middle of night, there would be chaos everywhere. What are your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, it's certainly possible. What kind of emergency happened last night? Evidence to support that idea.
Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruhodo?
Fascinating. Do show us, my good man. What evidence promotes the theory that some emergency gripped this vessel last night?
Yes!
Seaman Stroganoff, it's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship. Is that right? Ah, that is correct. Why? And the ship's log here. This would be where you record the details of your duties. What are you doing with that? That is mine! Ah, you rather carelessly left it atop that little makeshift bureau in the passageway out there. But as responsible passengers, we took it into our care with a mind to return it to you later. I left it there on purpose! That is where I put it always! The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances, you write the phrase, "nothing to report," every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing recorded in the log? That is... because nothing happened. But if nothing happened, you would normally write, "nothing to report," wouldn't you? Indeed so, which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened here aboard the SS Beria. Something sufficiently significant. Make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact.
Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night?
Stop talking rubbish! Perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself. Oh, why? Well, if something as major as an emergency stop had really happened, Surely all of us would have noticed.
That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently, and the alarm bell was so loud. Can't imagine that anyone would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night.
Well, no, that's a good point. What of the throbbing? Yes, let's speak of the throbbing. Everyone here has a throbbing. Let's all discuss it in detail. Sorry, what do you mean? Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We have all suffered with it.
Ah!
Oh, yes, I have had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today.
Nor have I! My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn.
Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected. He's right. My head's been throbbing today, too. Putting the pieces together. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, this felt sort of hazy. I can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. The first thing I noticed this morning, throbbing pain in my head. I'd already been dragged out of the wardrobe and had those handcuffs put on me by that point. Didn't I wake up when all that was happening to me? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, well, yes. Sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on? Ah, well, Kazuma looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. Enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it? Yes, in fact, I had all of that. Kazuma wasn't fond of chicken. Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all? That's right, he didn't touch it. Irrelevant. My dear fellow, does that not strike you?
Oh! Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say there was something wrong with the chicken?
I do.
No!
No. Really? Is that really true? Meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific, designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it. Sleeping drug? Do you mean whoever did this sliced every meal with a sleeping drug so that no one would notice the ship's emergency stop?
Mr. Naruhodo, of course that's not what Mr. Sholmes means. What a far-fetched idea.
Precisely. Missing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator.
What? Mr. Sholmes!
Well, seaman? Sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would be an inquiry made with the shipping company, of course. Were that to happen, every member of the crew and the captain himself all over the coals for aiding and abetting a renegade. Oh!
Please, no more. I will tell everything.
Eh?
I cannot make problems like this. For everyone anymore.
These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe.
Yes. So when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me.
We all agreed to help, everyone together. throw away everything. Her fame in the ballet. Mother Russia wanted to help our angel. Leave it. You are right. You put sleeping drug in chicken last night. Yes, I remember now. I was chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point. Ah, but not make all the drug. How you say dissolve? A heavy seasoning. At midnight, in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. Helped by comrade on shore with small fishing boat. All the passengers of the SS Beria slept soundly. Thanks to it, almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion their evening meals had contained. Well, that's what happened. People awake on the ship last night. For the crew, people who dislike chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. That means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Kazuma's cabin door. How does that make sense? I think every cabin door would have ended up locked in that case. In complete chaos. Oh, but I wouldn't say so. What? Of course. Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins. After which they would have been overwhelmed by the tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite, and accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. Yes! The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyway. So not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning. Summary. In order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning. I've talked long time and said many things. What is point? The point is what I said earlier. Somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide broken fragments of glass and reveal the culprit's identity. Someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, busy night.
But... I don't know about any of this. I am just a little girl.
I like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am sailor, and sailors don't listen to long boring stories. We don't believe. Sailors like me, we only trust what we see with our own eyes. Laudable trait. What? I am quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Possibly did. Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? Do you hear it? The accusatory cry of guilt on the wind.
What as accusatory cry of guilt?
I'm sorry, you've lost me. Proof of involvement, man. But you can't hear such a call with your ears. No. Just hear it with your eyes. For observation is the basis of all deduction. What are you talking about? I believe the time has come. One final logic and reasoning spectacular to expose the truth. So, Mr. Naruhodo, your assistance, if you please. With what exactly, Mr. Sholmes? Observation, my dear fellow. As I said, it's two prevaricators. Observation?
You remember, Mr. Naruhodo, we know that somebody tried to fabricate evidence, don't we? By tampering with the scene of Mr. Asogi's death. What we're looking for is some trace of evidence that one of these two is there when it happened.
Precisely. You were delightfully quick to grasp my meaning. Alright, see what I can see. Looking for a trace of evidence that shows someone else was there last night when Kazuma died. Yeah, I like what they're doing here. Oh, look at this. It's some kind of stain in an unusual place.
Yes, you're right. It looks like ink if I'm not mistaken.
Ink. The color, too. Clear where this came from. Chunky arms. Seaman Stroganoff. You seem to have quite a large purple stain on the back of your white uniform there. Eh? Ah, yes, I don't know where the dirt comes from. So nothing in particular comes to mind about the stain. What are you trying to say? It would appear that the significance of this stain has escaped your attention, Seaman. Promise to make it plain. Very large purple stain on the back of Seaman Stroganoff's uniform.
I think what made it is clear.
Indeed it is. So, Mr. Naruhodo, present the evidence that proves it. My pleasure. Alright then, the evidence that proves what the stain on the back of Seaman Stroganoff's uniform really is. Okay. Yes, it's this photograph, and the ink it shows. That's what caused the stain on your uniform. Ink? Rather unusual color of ink, purple. Ah, the penny drops, at last. Now you see the significance. The Russian word on the floor next to the victim's body was written in purple ink. The stain on the back of your uniform is ink of exactly the same color. If the ink had been dry, it couldn't possibly have stained your uniform in that way. Which means you must have been present in the cabin in the moments immediately after the ink was spilled. Alright, yes. It was me. I did it. Everything. I arranged everything in Dead Student's cabin to make it look like Wardrobe Man did it. Then I pressed button to make Berea do emergency stop and bolt cabin door shut. Everything so no one would suspect our angel.
Biff, please.
Don't worry. Let me do talking. It was after 1 in the morning. I was on duty, patrolling passageway. Our angel came to me. She was white like sheet.
Biff, please, you must help me.
I went with her. The door to cabin number 1 was open. I looked inside, saw student boy on floor. What happened there?
Please, don't tell anyone. My little one. My little furry friend.
Everything that happened in cabin is like Angel told you. It then escaped through the ventilator into Mr. Asogi's cabin. Tripped over it and broke his neck while he fell on the floor. Okay, then he tripped over it and broke his neck when he fell on the floor? Yes, that is right. After the incident, when the cat ran away, Pavlova then visited the cabin next to hers, only to find its occupant lying lifeless on the floor. Said she was worried when she heard the sound of something falling on the floor. That's when she went to look. Oh, Angel? The door was not locked. She opened to look, and you already know what happened after.
There's just one thing, if you wouldn't mind.
What?
When you went to Mr. Asogi's cabin, Miss Pavlova, was he already dead? Why?
I already told you. When Nina opened door of student's cabin and looked inside,
I was asking Miss Pavlova.
Oh, Miss Pavlova?
Oh. Yes, that is right. I saw him. It was dark, and he was wearing black, but he was on the floor, not moving. I was scared. I understand, and I believe you.
So, is that finally it now? Discovered the real truth about Kazuma's death at last? Ah, something very nearly slipped my mind. Oh, Mr. Sholmes? This photograph. Yes, I took this myself, you know. Cause of death was a broken neck, and therefore the victim died instantly. Unfortunate incident that precipitated these events, a kitten on which the victim stumbled. However, if those are the facts, one particular area in this photograph seems to me somewhat unusual. What do you mean, unnatural? What are your thoughts on the matter, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, well... Kazuma tripped and fell. Some terrible stroke of bad luck broke his neck. Part of this photographic print seems unnatural. That.
Yes!
Right, if he really fell due to an unfortunate accident, then his fist just doesn't seem quite right. The exact same thought occurred to me. The fist is odd because why would he have if he was falling, you don't have your fist balled up. You instinctively open your hands to try to catch yourself. In a fall, one's instinct is to open the palms flat. I thought that looked odd. Yet here we see the victim with his left hand tightly balled into a fist. Almost, you might say, though he were gripping something. What do you mean? Simply that I took the liberty of investigating the victim's fist a short while ago. Did? What, pray, do you imagine I found there, my dear fellow?
Mr. Sholmes, show us, please!
Why, of course, my dear madame. Why would I keep you in suspense? This is what I found. Her earring.
Oh, a crescent moon with a little gemstone in the middle.
Interesting. Yes, you're right. Crescent moon. It's very pretty. It would seem so. What does it tell us? It tells us nothing. Not so sure. Crescent moon looks familiar somehow. I've seen it somewhere before. Observation, Mr. Naruhodo. That is the key. What? Truth is now tantalizingly close. How did that crescent moon come to be in Kazuma's clenched fist? This is the final clue, the last piece of the puzzle. Ask yourself, what does this little crescent moon mean? What significance has it? Observe. Find the answer with your own eyes. I didn't come from her left ear, so...
He has such petite ears amongst that beautiful hair, like little pink shells.
Oh, what's that? There's something attached to her ear.
Ah, I expect that's what's called an earring. It's a little piece of jewelry.
Earring, is it? Really is tiny.
Perhaps part of it is missing. Maybe it broke off. And all that's left is the clasp part that attaches to the ear.
If that's the case, I appear to have noticed that it's broken. I wouldn't have paid any attention to it. I did notice the other ear, but I didn't notice that one.
Yes!
Miss Pavlova, notice that on your ear. Even though you have a metal earring, the decorative part of it seems to be missing. The little link holding it must have broken, I suppose. Eh? What? Looking at your other ear, I notice a crescent moon. Ah! I don't believe it! Now, the missing crescent moon was found in the victim's clenched fist. Clearly, there's only one logical conclusion. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Neverhodo? Yes. Miss Pavlova, Sogi must have grasped that crescent moon and pulled it from your ear. Perhaps just moments before he fell to the floor. In other words, last night in Mr. Sogi's cabin, you witnessed the moment when the victim fell with your own eyes. In fact, quite literally at arm's length from him. Then the question is, why did Mr. Asogi do that? Why did he pull your earring from your ear and hold it in his clenched fist during his final moments?
Oh no!
Angel? No one can protect you now. Please, Miss Pavlova, tell us the truth. Last night, what did you do to Kazuma?
Ah! When I think about everything that happened yesterday, it was too much. Running away, the fishing boat in the middle of the night, trying to climb onto this huge ship. And then, when I was at last in this cabin, and I could relax after this horrible long day. Durka, wait! I couldn't believe when she disappeared through the ventilator. I tried to call her with a little whistle. I tried waving her favorite toy, but nothing worked. Durka would not come back.
What are you doing here at this time of night, Inspector? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was a friend of mine.
A young man from your country was very polite and kind. He helped me to find Durka, and he promised not to tell anyone. But then, when I had my friend in my arms again, I was going to leave the man's cabin.
Just a moment. Sorry, but...
Oh, yes?
Sure, I know your face. I've seen you somewhere before.
Ah!
Of course. You're Nikolina Pavlova, aren't you? A Russian ballerina.
Huh? No, I don't know that name. My heart nearly stopped when he said that. He knew who I was. How could this man from a land in the faraway east know a Russian ballerina?
Yes, I saw your performance in Japan. The beauty of the ballet made a deep impression on me. But what are you doing on this ship? Sure, I read that your ballet company was performing in Shanghai at the moment.
I can't fool him. I have to tell him the truth, and hope he doesn't tell anyone. I have no other choice.
I see. You've run away.
Please, please keep my secret. Don't tell anyone.
Give me a moment. I could use another opinion here.
He's going to pull that cord. He's going to tell the captain. Why did I think I could trust him? Then it happened. Everything at once. It was only a second, but felt like forever. Wait! I shouted, and then Urka jumped out of my arms and down to the young man's feet. And as he turned around to look at me, I pushed him. I don't even know why. I don't know why I did it. I was just so scared. And I had to stop him from telling anyone about me.
Of course, the sad tragedy is he wasn't going for the cord. He was going for the wardrobe. That's when you went to fetch help. Seaman Stroganov, who was on duty out in the passageway. I heard Nina cry out and thud on floor, so I ran to her. Standing at cabin door, shaking like a leaf. She looked at me and said,
"Help me, Biff. If they find out, it will be... Please, I have nowhere to go."
So you decided to help. And you arranged things in Casima's cabin to make it look like I did it. No one would suspect the passenger in the cabin next door. Yes. I went into cabin and looked around. Sure there was nothing to show Nina was there. I found stowaway. Wardrobe. Still sleeping. Right. That's when he found me.
So you worked out a plan to lay the blame on the stowaway.
Closed wardrobe doors and put back strange paper sign. Luckily for me, that's the only reason Susato-san started to believe me when I said I was innocent. I dragged young man's body to good place. Just ink that was spilling to right on floor. I looked. Oh, so that the person who found him would look inside wardrobe and find stowaway. And tell me, what of the glass bell?
It was by my feet, so I picked it up.
I see.
But it was dark in the cabin. I didn't notice the other half.
Angel went back to her cabin. Stop. Pressing the emergency alarm button in the passageway. Yes. Accordingly, the SS Beria did indeed come to an emergency halt a little after 2 a.m., thus enticing the bolt on the cabin door to slide shut. The locked room mystery. There's still one thing I don't understand, Miss Pavlova.
What?
Well, you said you told Kazuma about the fact that you'd run away from your homeland, because you were worried he was going to tell the captain that you pushed him. Isn't that right?
Yes.
If he had pulled the bell cord and called for the captain of the ship, friends with every member of the crew, that'd have been a problem.
It was what he said first that made me scared.
He said first. Doing here at this time of night, Inspector? Oh. I'm sorry. I thought it was a friend of mine.
He said an inspector was his friend.
Ah, yes, meaning me. I'm supposed to be acting as his bodyguard.
I thought that if police knew about me, they would arrest me. So before he could pull bell cord, May I stop you a moment, please, Miss Pavlova? It's just... doesn't seem to make sense. mean, was Mr. Asogi really going to pull the bell cord? I don't know.
What?
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, I'm not Kazuma, so I can't know for certain. But the man of his word. I told you wouldn't give your secret away. Wouldn't have.
No! He was walking over to it! He was going to pull the cord! He was going to make them send me back!
Well, Mr. Naruhodo, today's work is not yet done, it seems. One more deduction to make. What? Another deduction? Yes. What action was the victim really about to take at that moment? We determine whether the young man's gaze was directed. First, consider the victim's location within his cabin. It's easy, I remember every detail of that room. I mean, yes, I spent quite a lot of time in the wardrobe, but still. The cabin has been my home for this entire voyage.
So this is how the cabin looked last night when Miss Pavlova visited Kazuma-sama?
Yes, that's exactly how it was. Are you ready then, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes. One thing I've learned today. A simple gaze can reveal all manner of truths. Not only that, draw the right conclusion. Can't afford to be out by even a little bit when you're following the gaze to where it lands. When he turned away from Miss Pavlova, what exactly was Kazuma looking at? Well, it's getting to the truth, but yeah, it is kind of sadistic. But only by uncovering the entire truth can you truly kind of come to terms with everything. The wardrobe. My wardrobe. I was in there at the time, of course. Sleeping soundly. Too soundly. I hadn't eaten that chicken that was laced with the sleeping drug. He'd woken me up. This tragedy would never have happened.
Take that!
Considering everything that had happened last night, it may have looked as though Kazuma was going to ring the bell cord. Yes, however, what is directly beside the bell cord? Wardrobe.
The wardrobe?
More importantly, inside the wardrobe. Man's great friend, sleeping soundly.
Ah! Miss Pavlova, please, think back very carefully. What were Mr. Asogi's exact words last night?
Give me a moment. I could use another opinion here.
Another opinion?
Yes, not from a member of the crew. No, Mr. Asogi intended to consult his close friend on the matter. See if, between them, they might be able to help in some way, no doubt.
Oh no! Badly, we can't know the truth for certain now. Too late for that. But I wish you had made sure of what Mr. Asogi was looking at. Things may have ended very differently if you had.
Miss Pavlova, I want to thank you for finally admitting the truth. But unfortunately, Biz lost his life because of what you did. It will never change. I hope you'll never forget that.
I'm sorry. Really, I'm so sorry. What have I done?
And so, at long last, history surrounding the tragic accident on the SS Beria is finally laid to rest. Sad. What will happen to Miss Pavlova now, then? Once we reach Great Britain, shall we hand it over to the British police at Scotland Yard? What about the fact she ran away from Russia? The Russians try to repatriate her? Apparently, each detective can speak to the immigration office and sort all that out. Sholmes can do that? You won't be going back to Russia, then? No, I don't think so. If she wanted to return in the future, I doubt she would be able to. Ran away, so now she's in exile for life. See. I'm sorry. Seaman Stroganoff? I wanted to help our angel, no matter what. But didn't think about you. About how you lost good friend. I will go with Nina. I'll give myself to British police. It's kind of you. In the meantime, thank you for letting me go free again. Isn't his death like such a waste, but... well, do what you can for Miss Pavlova, won't you? Ah. Well, I'm afraid you need to pack now. You're to arrive in Hong Kong tomorrow. Pains me. I'm gonna have to hand you over to the consul to arrange your passage back to Japan. Yes. It did stow away after all. Expect any different. So, you should get back to your cabin now. Like my study tour to Great Britain is over before it's even begun then. Only days ago, Cosm and I were laughing together about how we'd tear up the streets of London. Distant memory now. Oh, what's that? Someone weeping. Sada-san?
Naruhodo-san, I didn't know you had returned.
Oh, well, I haven't been back long. Hasanaga just told me I should pack. You know, ready to leave the ship tomorrow and all that.
I still believe this has happened. I can't believe someone's life can be over just like that.
Sada-san.
He had such grand ideas for his visit to Great Britain. So many dreams. Now they've been cruelly taken away. As he has. I thought I could never forgive the person responsible. But now we know the truth. It's just an accident. A silly series of mishaps. It's too much, Naruhodo-san. It's just too much.
Yes, I know. Sing. Oh. Wish there was something I could say.
Inspector!
My duty was to see Asogi-san safely to Great Britain. It failed, and caused his two closest friends great pain and suffering as a result. Let everyone down. I will do anything, except for my terrible blunder. He blames you, Inspector. I'm free again now, at least. Huh? Surprise, Mr. Naruhodo! What is the meaning of this? Oh, a trifling matter. With that in my head, I think I shall always picture you wearing those shackles. Without them, balance seems all wrong. It's distracting. Sorry? I decided to restore them. For old time's sake, shall we say. You are a stowaway, after all. He thinks this is funny?
Mr. Sholmes. I do appreciate all your assistance. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Not at all, not at all. Though it's a little late, I offer my sincere condolences. loss of your companion is truly heartrending. Hope that you will be able to fulfill some of his aspirations in his honor. Kinda surprised she didn't. Afraid that won't be possible. We shall be disembarking at the next port, Hong Kong. We have to return to Japan and make a full report about everything that's happened. What? Wait a minute. It's just me that has to go back, isn't it? I mean, I was the stowaway. Terms of the study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in both Great Britain and Japan. It's to be one lawyer, one assistant. Was to be? In light of Mr. Osagi's unfortunate death, the study tour can no longer go ahead. No. Care for me, but... Sato-san. Well, we're a lawyer aspirant. My dear fellows, the majority of problems have an extremely simple solution, you know. All you require is one lawyer, and the study tour can continue, surely.
But there is no one else with the necessary qualification, Mr. Sholmes. We know of no other lawyer.
Qualifications, you say? Any qualifications obtained in your own country will be of little value in Great Britain, I'm afraid.
Oh, but...
But anyway, the voyage to London still promises a good month of time. Ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves another suitable lawyer.
Yes.
Mr. Sato?
Yes.
Perhaps I might be able to do it?
Ah!
But you're not a lawyer, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, unless... Are you studying law? No, I'm not, but... I'm sorry. In that case, I don't think there's even a chance it could work. But as I said, there's still more than a month before we reach England shores. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, I have a month in which to study, to learn what I must to become a lawyer in Great Britain.
Mr. Naruhodo!
It's ridiculous. Are you seriously suggesting anyone could learn all of that in just 40 days? There's only one way to find out. I would work my fingers to the bone, Inspector, every single day. Will you let me try? And if by the time we reach Great Britain I haven't learned enough to be recognized as a lawyer, I'll take whatever punishment is deemed appropriate. But why put yourself in such a difficult position? Kazuma said there was something he had to do in Great Britain, that he would sacrifice anything to make it happen. He was passionate about it. Can't let all that passion just come to nothing. Anyway, it's for my own benefit too. I will become a lawyer. Have to. What do you say, Miss Susato? Oh, look at that smile.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
Thank you. So, what does our bespectacled inspector friend say? Are you serious? One lawyer and one assistant. The numbers are indisputable. No, 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 it's madness. Yet fascinating, wouldn't you agree? Fascinating. Duty and rules are the dull routine of existence that we all abhor. Give us interest. Give us fascination. Speak for yourself. Besides, qualifications are no measure of a man. Matters is his character. You've witnessed ample evidence of this man's exemplary character today with your own eyes. Early hours of this morning until this very moment now. Despite contending with the passing of his close companion and despite the accusation of guilt, this man has shown resourcefulness, intelligence, and above all, courage. Very well. I'll think of a clever way to word my report to the Department of Justice. Inspector! After all, I had to make a promise, didn't I? I said that I'd do anything at all to make up for my shortcomings here.
Oh, thank you, Inspector.
Excuse me. Pay a visit to the captain's quarters, I think. Discuss what to do next. Best make my report. Please don't get beat up again.
Are you really prepared to attempt this, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, I'm gonna try. Wonder. Consider teaching me what I need to know. Anything about being a lawyer.
I would be delighted to help you. I am a judicial assistant after all.
Thank you.
And, Mr. Naruhodo, I'd like you to take the charge of this.
What? Me? Are you sure?
I'm sure it's what Kazuma-sama would have wanted. Its name is Karuma. It's a great sword. It's been in the Asogi clan for generations.
Very well. Except, I'll treasure it always. Well then, Mr. Sato. Seems we'll be working together for some time to come yet.
It will be an honor, Mr. Naruhodo. And for the next 40 days, I shan't grant you a single minute of freedom. We shall fill every spare moment with study.
Yes, that's exactly what I need. Oh, you're gonna regret those words.
But before we begin, I have an earnest favor to ask of you too.
Goodness, what is it?
Please throw me to the ground. 3 times.
Oh, to make up for the 3 times she threw us? What?
I should never have doubted you. You were Kazuma-sama's closest friend. Of course you would never have done anything to hurt him. That should have been obvious to me from the start. But I allowed suspicion to get the better of me. And no matter how upset I was feeling, it's completely unforgivable behavior.
No, you were in shock. You just found out about me stowing away. The cabin door was locked from the...
No! I won't let you make excuses for me! Whatever the circumstances, I should never have thrown you. And not just once, but 5 times.
You only threw us 3 times. Number keeps creeping up, doesn't it?
Please, you must! Just take hold of me and throw me! Do it! Don't even think about it!
Oh no, I don't even know how! I've never thrown anyone in my life! Very wise, Mr. Naruhodo. It isn't a skill one acquires without considerable training.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes!
I observed your throwing technique several times with great interest. Yes, I was most impressed. When did he see that? I presume that would be a form of Japanese wrestling.
Oh, well, in a way. It's not wrestling, but my own interpretation of an ancient jiu-jitsu technique.
Apparently it's called the Susato Takedown. Head swimming, I believe me. How beguiling. I'm a practitioner of some of the combative arts myself. Somewhat accomplished boxer. There he goes, dancing around again. Wonder if you'd be so kind as to instruct me on the technique of your arresting throw.
Yes, I'd be honored.
Let us not dally. Demonstrate, my dear madame. Who's getting thrown? Who's getting thrown?
Oh, of course. Are you ready?
Oh god, it's us again. Where were you throwing us? I guess so that he can observe. Are you
ready, Mr. Naruhodo?
Sorry?
Hiya!
Wasting away again on the floor again.
As you can see, you throw from the abdomen.
Oh yes, arresting indeed, and that is what you term the Susato Takedown, is it?
Actually, no, that was a Susato squash.
My groggy state of consciousness scene from an evening recently spent with Kazuma flickered into my mind. Uma? That's right. A prized sword that's been passed down through generations of the Asogi clan. If you managed to get permission to bring it with you. I mean, taking a katana on a study tour is more than a little irregular, surely. Japanese man's sword is his soul, Ryunosuke. Can't be parted. It can't be parted from my katana. Ruma guides me. You believe that? Its name compels its wielder to slice evil in two? You would need much compelling. On that subject, there's something very important that I have to do in Great Britain. Sacrifice anything to make it happen. Appreciate you seeing it through with me. Oh, of course I will. Whatever it is, I'll see it through to the end with you. I knew you wouldn't let me down. Important thing he had to do. Still don't know what that was. But I'm gonna see the place for myself and work it out. Great Britain's capital, London. Which will give us plenty of opportunity to continue to encounter Mr. Sherlock Sholmes. He is very amusing. So are you allowed to just do them in any order you want, technically? You don't have to unlock them? Surprising. Yeah. I mean, really want to do it in order, but it's kind of neat. So episode 3, The Adventure of the Runaway Room, will be next. Right. We'll actually get to see Great Britain. Excuse me. If we've unlocked any special contents yet. Oh, what's this? Okay, it's only an Great Ace Attorney 2. Oh. Go. Huh. Short extra episodes? Okay, well, we'll look at those later. I think some of those are spoilers. Alright. Well, awesome, awesome, awesome. We have now completed 2 cases, and I am thoroughly enjoying this. This is really good. It's kind of interesting that I thought we were going to be staying in Japan the whole time. I didn't know we were actually going to England. So that's going to be neat. There we go. Okay. Alright. Well, thank you everyone for coming out and watching. I'm glad I actually got to do a stream tonight. And I'm glad that that actually timed itself well. It ended right about the time that we came to a close. So very good. Alright, well, thank you, Glaylev. Thank you, Hollow. Anybody else who happens to be watching, thank you for coming as well. Hope you had a good time. Let's see who's streaming. We'll give them a host. We'll give one over to host Demon. Alright, thank you all again for watching, and until next time, God bless.